They claim to be a Christian religion, the one and only way to get to heaven. By every description and from everything I've seen, it is nothing but a child sex ring, a pedophile ring. I'm Sheri Autrey. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a victim, and I'm a survivor. Both my parents were brought into it when they were young teens, and that's when my grandparents were exposed to it and brought into it. So I was a very insecure little girl. It was awkward growing up, the way that I had to grow up. Having 4 brothers, I had gotten lost in the mix, so I was a very prime target. I was easy prey for male attention, validation, affirmation. It was very much a set of unwritten rules that we were raised by that were formulated by the church. Really cherry-pick scripture to reinforce what they were trying to have their members controlled by. And the workers, the ministers, travel and they'll have what's called a field, a territory that they're assigned to. And it's always 2 companions, either male or female, and they travel for the whole year, staying in a member's home every night. And it's considered a high honor to have them at your home. So everything is put on hold with regular life because here's the workers, the true ministers of God, are spending time with us. The house gets cleaned, the best meals are prepared, and they are catered to hand and foot. He had come to our home alone when I was 11, 12, and he was with his companion then, and that's when he started grooming myself and my family. When he came 2 years later to rest, to take a time out from the ministry, he was on his own. Steve Rose, my perpetrator, was a very larger-than-life personality, 6'6", good-looking, charming. All the girls had crushes on him. He could sell ice to Eskimos. And he had already groomed my family 2 years prior. He comes in and I'm just in awe that this person is going to be with us, this person who had shown me affection and attention previously. And it was very much packaged that someday we would get married. We can't tell my parents right now because I was just too young. So he stayed for 2 months, consecutively 2 months. And the abuse started the night that he got there or the night after. It started almost immediately, and it was going down to the hay barn where we would always go as a group previously and would tell scary stories in the hay barn, and that's where it started, and it continued the duration of the 2 months. And no one had an idea that he's a pedophile. His name came up, and my comment was, if you really knew who he was, you would want to kill him. And the next morning she came into my room and she said, when are you going to tell me what happened with you and Steve Rose? So they believed me straight away. And ironically, my grandmother had never liked Steve Rose as a human. And there were letters back and forth in 86, 87, about this between the perpetrator, my parents, and the workers, and I just found out about those letters for the first time on March 31st of last year. And a complete file that this organization had on him with the dot matrix label printed on the file that was in a suitcase with other files. 6 years later, he was promoted to an elder of a meeting. So he was protected and promoted. And up until last year, when I started making calls and really raising a ruckus, he had been having meeting in his home and was at the elevated status of an elder with leadership full well knowing that he's a pedophile. My biggest fear was that he was raping the souls of other children. And that is exactly what happens when a person is molested. It rapes the soul of the child. There's over 700 perpetrators with vetted allegations now from 22 countries. Survivors have come forward. And the way that they have covered it up for decades, the oldest survivor that's come forward is 95 years old. She was molested when she was 5 years old. These have gone on, these child molestations have gone on for decades, and what they do a lot of times is once there becomes too much noise, too many complaints, they'll move them to another state. Rose. Yes, I am going after him with criminal charges. My case is with the FBI currently. My hope is that in sharing my story, it helps one other survivor have hope, get help, get healing, protects a child. And I've already seen that come to fruition. So many people that I've shared my story with over the years have raised their children differently, have protected them, not even in this organization, but in society as a whole. When I was young, I went to my first church service at an Amway convention. And it was the first exposure that I had had in my lifetime. I was about 23 to 25. That God was a good God. God has had such a huge part. And specifically in the last 2 years, I can see January 3rd, 2 years ago, was the day I became sober. A multitude of people that have come forward to me that have said they've just shared their story for the first time because of hearing my story. And that, I can't put a price tag on that. Those of us, me, that is able to speak up and share my story, I feel that I must. I feel that that is what God has put on me. That I'm willing to, and I must, for those who cannot.